I have a lead on a cute little condo in a popular tourist area just under 3 hours from St. Louis. Should I buy it? Hi, welcome to Mindy and Megan. I'm Megan, and today I'm here at this Lake Ozark condo, and I thought I'd take the opportunity to do a short-term rental deal dive with all of you. We'll walk through the background, the numbers, and the pros and cons that I'm considering as I decide whether or not to buy this short-term rental. So the background here is that I got this lead from a real estate friend. The owners are trying to sell it because they've got some other things they want to do in life. They've decided that owning a vacation rental is not for them. So I am an agent for my own selfish purposes, so I can get all the paperwork handled and we won't have any agent fees or commissions involved. It is a 2-bed, 2-bath Lake Ozark condo, and it's in a community that has some pretty cool amenities, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I've personally been interested in adding a couple of short-term rentals to my portfolio over time, primarily for the personal utility of it. I want to be able to take my kids to pieces of real estate that we own and explain how using them as vacation rentals allows us to own these places and use these places a little bit each year. And hopefully it'll cash flow or at least break even. I'm not looking for huge cash flow on these because it's really about having the assets and the place to take my family when I want to get away. So let's walk through the numbers. I've been talking with the sellers and they're willing to come down to $130,000 for this 2-bed, 2-bath condo, which is a pretty good price in this area. I don't think that it's necessarily a place that's going to appreciate wildly, but I think that over time, if I hold it long enough, of course, I'll make my money back. And ideally, I'd like to keep it for a while and be able to enjoy it with my family. So I'm looking at $130,000 purchase price. I expect to have to put 25% down. Now, I'm probably going to buy it with a line of credit that I have, do some work on it, and then refinance. And depending on how that appraisal comes in, I might not have to put a full 25% down, so we'll see how that goes. I always estimate closing costs to be around $2,500 based on what I've seen recently with 1 to 4 unit buildings. And I'm baking in about $10,000 worth of repairs or updates. I want to do some updates to the place, both to the property itself and in terms of furnishing and decoration. I should be able to get a fixed 30-year rate somewhere in the mid-6s on this property. And I think the loan will be just under $100,000. Although it might be a little bit more, again, if I'm able to refinance at a higher value than what I buy it at. So monthly rents, this is a tricky part because obviously with a short-term rental, there's a ton of variation. I am thinking that the nightly rent will be anywhere between $100 and $150 per night. It depends on the time of year and what I do to update it and how well I market it. So I ran a couple of scenarios here, the bottom end being around $110 per night, the top end being around $140 average nightly rate throughout the year. And then of course, you're not going to have it filled every single night. I've talked to a few friends who have properties in the area and they say estimate 50% occupancy throughout the year. So that's obviously really low when you compare it to short-term rentals in other areas or to long-term or mid-term rentals in St. Louis. So that really changes the numbers a lot compared to what I'm usually looking at. But of course, I want to run these numbers conservatively and we'll see if I can add enough value here and market it well enough to up those numbers a little bit over time. For expenses, the principal and interest expense that I'm expecting is about $616 per month. If you look down on the spreadsheet a little bit more, the monthly HOA fees are actually nearly as much as the principal and interest costs. So the HOA fees or the condo association fees nearly double that cost of holding this place, which is really a big cost to consider. But of course, those association fees cover a lot. It means that all of the exterior stuff like the common areas, landscaping, the roof, things like that, all the amenities are all covered in that cost. They also cover several of the utilities. The only utility that I have to pay for is electric. I'm estimating about $100 per month in taxes as well as with insurance. And then of course there's maintenance costs, including cleanings in between tenants. So that cost is pretty high, probably another nearly $500 per month. And then they're setting aside some amount for CapEx over time. So probably between 5 and 10%. I estimated 5% because I am going to put some work in up front, but setting aside that amount each month for future updates, fixes, etc. So based on these very initial estimates of the numbers, this property is not looking like it will cash flow at all. I think at the low end, I'd be spending about $500 per month to own this place. At the high end of rents, it might only be $115 per month, which is not nearly as bad when I'm going to also have some personal utility and be able to bring my kids out to this place for a weekend here and there throughout the course of the year. That said, as I've mentioned throughout this process of going through these numbers, there are a ton of unknowns. Vacancy is really high, so I'm going to look into whether I could midterm rent in the winter to reduce that vacancy a little bit. I also need to keep keep researching the average nightly rates because they vary quite a bit throughout the course of the year and based on where you are in the Lake Ozark area. So I definitely need to dive in there a little more deeply to see if there's more room to make this a break-even property for myself and my family. So with those very rough numbers in mind, let's go through the pros and cons, and we'll start with the cons. Obviously, the condo association comes with high fees and other headaches that you've probably heard about. We'll have to do a video soon diving into the pros and cons of condos and HOAs in general, but that condo association fee is nearly as much as the principal and interest. So that's a super high cost. There's no way of getting out of that, and you're kind of at the mercy of this other entity with your property. So that's really something to consider. I'm gonna have to do some more due diligence here, and I'll share later with you how I dive in to the condo association and check to see if they're being run well or if they're not using the money well and it's going to cause me problems in the future. Another con for this particular condo is that this community is not necessarily considered one of the high-end communities in the Lake Ozark area. It's not by any means a bad community, but it's not really super high-end either. And I don't think that bothers me very much, but I do have to take that into consideration, especially when I'm looking at my average nightly rates. And finally, the high seasonality. This is an issue with most short-term rentals, but especially here in Lake Ozark, where the time of year that people want to come enjoy the lake is all in the summer. You're going to be making all of your money pretty much in one season. Maybe there's a little bit of time on either end of the summer where people are still coming to enjoy it, but there's a lot of vacancy in between that high season, and you have to figure out what to do to keep paying your bills during that time. So that's a big con, a big thing that I'm going to be considering as I dive more deeply into these numbers. The pros of this condo. First of all, this place is relatively close and relatively low cost for my first short-term rental outside of St. Louis. As I said earlier in this video, this is something I want to do in the future. I want to have some short-term rentals in different areas where I want to spend time with my family. And to have my very first one be only $130,000 and less than 3 hours from where I live, there are definitely some benefits to that as I learn. Another big pro for this particular condo is that this community has some pretty cool amenities, including the largest swim-up bar in the entire state of Missouri. And this is something that I've noticed the current owners of this condo have not really done much work to get out there. They have not included that fact in their marketing or tried to play up that aspect of it. So this might be a place where I could improve the marketing and find more people who are more interested in this particular condo as a vacation rental. Another pro is, as you can see, this place is already furnished and it is being used as a vacation rental. So I don't have to start from square one with this place. I do want to make some updates and upgrades to the place, and I would do the same with the furnishing. So there's some cost involved, but I'm not going to have to start at zero and build from there. I can improve what's already here. And finally, as you can probably tell throughout this video, I'm excited about the personal utility aspect of this. Even if I don't make any money on this place, I would enjoy owning this as a place for my family to come spend time each year, hopefully a few times each year. That said, I don't necessarily want to be paying out of pocket for that. I'd like it to hopefully at least break even, but the personal utility aspect is exciting. So what do you think? Should I buy this place? Let me know in the comments what you think. I will have to do a little more research and crunch numbers a little bit longer before I make my final decision, but once I do, I'll make a follow-up video letting you guys know where I ended up with this Lake Ozark 2-bed, 2-bath condo. In the meantime, subscribe, watch some other videos, like, share, and most importantly, keep learning, keep growing, and have fun.